and welcome to the Hot Lap and welcome to our Japanese Grand Prix driver tier list. Yep, we are ranking all the drivers from S to best, from A to B to C, all the way around to D. I guess that driver should be bending the knee or making the T for his team rather than being on the track. But this is for the Japanese Grand Prix weekend as a whole. So we do take into qualifying and any mistakes they might make in practice and going into the races. Pretty much, as you can see here, all the beautiful drivers' faces. I mean, look at that. What an absolutely good looking bunch. And then we're going to start with Alex Albon. How did he do in the race? Well, to be fair, it's a shame we're starting with this race for Alex, because it was a very average Williams Grand Prix, really, where he's been fighting for points and he didn't really look like he was going to score points even before he ended up retiring. I think kind of like classified DNF, but 16th on the list, so to speak. And he didn't qualify in the top 10 this time either, which is a bit of a shame for poor Alex Albon, qualifying 13th. So I am kind of going to put him on a really, really average, I guess, C, if I'm honest. Maybe I'll bring that up to a no, C. I mean, it's kind of where you expected him to be. I guess the same with Fernando. I guess it's the same even with Fernando Alonso. He ended up starting 10th, and he ended up finishing 8th. So he didn't do too bad, did he? But he was out qualified by Tsunoda, for example, and Perez, who, well, we're going to get into Perez in a bit. Oh my gosh. But yeah, he just a very average race. But I'm going to put him in the high C. The reason I'm not going to put him in the B is because is that honeymoon over for the Aston Martin team when he was moaning about, you fed me to the lions. But I think the issue was there was not any more speed in that car. If at this point, if Alonso can't, he's been driving so well, if you can't get any of that speed out, then alas, I think that's as far as it's going to go. But it was almost like a hashtag GP2 engine moment for Fernando, making it very clear on the radio. But here we go. Bottas. Yes, this is not going to be quite Bottas sympathy corner, but he did out-qualify Zhou, so that's not too bad. Not too bad from Bottas, but poor Bottas, he retired, didn't he? So it's really, really hard to gauge. He's getting a C. I mean, yeah, he out-qualified Zhou, but I guess that's all you can really say for him at the weekend in the Alfa Romeo. So, who's next? Well, it's going to be Pierre Gasly, who ended up finishing behind his teammate, albeit you could make an argument that wasn't entirely fair. He did out-qualify Ocon, and Ocon ended up obviously, passing him towards the end, where he wasn't too happy about that, was he? So he qualified 12th, and he ended up finishing, albeit in the points, in 10th place, which is, I think, about as high as you can really, I guess, get, if I'm honest. But he did beat Fernando Alonso. So I'm going to put him, he's kind of like a high C or maybe a B. Well, we'll put him in the C for now, and we'll see where we are at the end of it. But Lewis Hamilton, the lead Mercedes driver, for the first time since the summer break, significantly, I think, from him, because coming out of Singapore, he was really concerned about his qualifying. He out-qualified George Russell, and he beat George Russell in the race as well, albeit it was a very slow Mercedes, wasn't it, compared to the competition. I mean, he qualified 7th, George Russell 8th, but he did finish 5th, and him and George Russell had that really, really big fight, didn't they? But I don't think there was nothing spectacular. It was a good fight, but then there was an incident down at Spoon Corner when I think really Hamilton was a bit cheeky there, and I think he could have been a bit nicer to George, but I think he extracted the absolute maximum out of the Mercedes. So far he is our highest run in B. Next up, we have Nico Hülkenberg. So Nico Hülkenberg, how did he do? Well, he qualified a miserable 18th, and he finished 14th. He did beat his, even though he's out-qualified his teammate, he did beat his teammate, but they're the last two classified finishers in 14th and 15th. So Hülkenberg, I think you kind of are in between Albon and Bottas for being, well, very average, let's say. But next up, we have Liam Lawson. What a weekend he had. He nearly got into that top 10 in the AlphaTauri, which has been a solid car. There has been upgrades, but I still don't think that's the best. That's the best the cars really get. I mean, when we look at Tsunoda, he qualified Alonso in 9th. But then it was Lawson that beat him in the race. Okay? I still think, though, he did wonderful. So I'm putting him, I think, with his performance, I want to put him just behind Lewis Hamilton in the high B, let's say, for Liam Lawson. He's doing absolutely spectacular. Since he replaced Danny Ricciardo, he's not really put a foot wrong at all, has he? He has not put a foot wrong at all. And I feel so sorry for him with, obviously, AlphaTauri, the AlphaTauri team, basically wanting Tsunoda and Ricciardo over him. I mean, I'm thinking that, like a lot of people are thinking, what is he to do? But what are you to do? If you can, please like and subscribe. Turn your notifications on if you want more of the same. This is the Hot Lap. We do news videos, now tier lists after every Grand Prix, and a few gaming videos too. Every like is absolutely fantastic. It brings a smile up on my face. Every subscribe, once again, brings an even bigger smile on my face. I'll consider you a champion. Definitely, if you ended up doing both. But Liam Lawson, potentially a champion in waiting, maybe. He's got a lot more hurdles to jump through, though. But I think he can be really proud of how he did. But can a certain Charles Leclerc be proud of what he did? I mean, the Ferrari was up there. He finished 4th, didn't he? So, qualified 4th. My apologies. He qualified 4th and he finished 4th. And I think that was about the best he was going to get out of that Ferrari. So, I think a high B. The reason he doesn't finish, I think, the reason I'd put Hamilton slightly above Leclerc is because basically Hamilton beat a Ferrari. And I think those Ferraris had a very even pace. When you look at the actual lap times, I think Hamilton, the Mercedes, may have had the tiny edge, but he kept ahead of Carlos. He kept ahead of Carlos Sainz in Hamilton, and I think Leclerc got about the most you could. It was almost a non-notifiable weekend for him in terms of the race, but he out-qualified Sainz, which I think is really important. So, next up, we have Kevin Magnussen. Well, K-Mag. He out-qualified his teammate in Hulkenberg, but he finished behind his teammate. I guess the race is a bit more important than qualifying, but he is going to go into the low C's there. Someone, though, who is not going to go into the low C's is Lando Norris. What a very good drive you had, Lando. Absolutely fantastic. I thought, I mean, brilliant. Yes, okay. He qualified third. He was out-qualified by Piastri, but he ended up finishing, 19 seconds behind Verstappen. Oh, and I do think he had the second fastest lap. He's definitely got up there in the A. Not quite the S tier, because I think that's about where you kind of expected McLaren to be. And he obviously didn't. He was out-qualified by Piastri. But we'll get into Piastri in a bit. Well done for, I shouldn't say Sebastian. No, because I've got Ocon next. Well done for Lando Norris. That second place. Absolutely brilliant. I think the only thing that shaded it was the fact that your teammate, Oscar Piastri, a driver that has never really raced around Japan, and Japan is known to be quite a hard circuit, ended up out-qualifying you. So, next up, we have Esteban Ocon. Yes, he beat Gasly. I get it. But a very average race, if I'm honest, and I'm going to put him. Excuse me, there. I'm going to put him behind Fernando Alonso in the end. Yes, I know he beat Gasly, but there was I don't know, shenanigans maybe with the reason why he beat Gasly. I don't think he did a bad job. Once again, C I think is an average job. It's kind of like sort of where you expect, maybe nothing too special, but yeah. So I guess Gasly's in the C, but here we go. Here's the first really interesting one is, oh my gosh, Sergio Perez. What an absolute shocker. Okay, Sergio, oh, where art thou? The Sergio Perez from Azerbaijan, Miami, well, pole from Miami, Saudi Arabia. What happened to you, Sergio Perez? Because this looks like an absolute different driver. He qualified in sixth, okay, and he was significantly slower than Max Verstappen. Nearly 8/10 slower than Max Verstappen. What are you doing in the best car? He's getting a D. And then as the race started, it really wasn't his fault. But then he ended up T-boning a Haas. That move wasn't on. You're in the fastest car. It's got amazing DRS. He wasn't patient. Oh, Perez. As I mentioned in the race show, I'm starting to wonder how is this man employed? How is he? So next up, we are going to have Oscar Piastri. He is getting an A. Yes, I do feel that he did finish behind his teammate Lando Norris, but I think the mere fact that the race normally is more important, but when you take into account, I mean, for example, Liam Lawson did absolutely fantastic. Okay, I think he's going ahead of Leclerc there, but with Piastri, I mean, with Oscar, he doesn't know the track in Japan, but he turns up and out-qualifies Lando Norris, who is now, I mean, you can't really think of Norris as a rookie. He is an quite experienced. And at one point also, he was in second. He got a better start than Verstappen initially and gave Verstappen a run for his money. Then Lando Norris tried to take Verstappen round the outside. Unlike Norris, though, he wasn't moaning and complaining on the radio. He was, poker face Piastri. He's definitely getting a high A. George Russell, he got the best out of the car. I think he was given the lesser of the two strategies. And then he got told to let Hamilton by, which I thought was really, really unfair. Because I think just race at that point. But I guess it is, we do forget, it is a team sport, isn't it? But I'm putting him I'm putting him pretty much equal with Lewis Hamilton. I think they both did. They both got the best they could out of the car, and George Russell definitely had the lesser of those two strategies. And he did get a bit, well, it wasn't, he essentially got pushed wide by Lewis Hamilton, didn't they? The stewards investigated it. They figured nothing further. Next up, we have Carlos Sainz, who I'm putting behind Leclerc. I think Ferrari kind of messed him up with the strategy, but this was the first weekend over the last three, for example, where he did look slower than Leclerc and not really much of a competition for Leclerc. I mean, if we were talking Singapore, he'd be given an S, wouldn't he? But alas, this is Japan. Next up, D. There's not really much to say. Albeit, I do think, because he's a rookie, he's got to go above Perez there, because Perez did an absolute shocker of a race. But yeah. Logan Sargent. Yeah, there's not really much to say there, is there? Surely Williams have now got the yellow pages of the drivers out and are looking at other drivers. I mean, I know Liam Lawson's been mentioned, but the latest suggestion is that Liam Lawson will be has been offered a Red Bull reserve driver seat with a promise of a drive for 2025. So a 2024 reserve driver seat with a promise of a 25 seat, potentially at AlphaTauri. Next up, Lance Stroll. Yep, you are. There we go. I mean, this guy at some point had the second fastest car this season, albeit this car was clearly in the top 10. Alonso got there, and well, Lance Stroll was absolutely nowhere near. I mean, he qualified in 17th. He didn't even make it out of Q3. Okay, and unfortunately he did retire the car with some issue with the back wing. But there we go. Lance Stroll. I'm sorry there. No. To Lance Stroll. But Yuki Tsunoda, yeah, he did out-qualify Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson finished above him. And I think, Tsunoda with the car, that's kind of about where you're going to finish. So I'm going to put Tsunoda in the B tier list between the two Ferrari drivers. Next up, we have Jos. No, that's his dad, Max Verstappen, who I'm going to put him in between the two McLaren drivers. Not quite the S, because that lap was absolutely stunning. Don't get me wrong, it was a stunning lap in Japan. And I mean, some people might argue that alone should give him maybe like an S tier, because it was, I mean, he was so dominant. Let's see, he did a 128.877, and the next fastest was, like a Piastri and a 129.458. However, let's be fair, he is in the best car, and he did improve that lap by a tenth. It was stunning. I feel, though, that he has done better laps in 2021 when it's been closer, and that's because he was under no pressure at that point in terms of doing a good lap. I know he had this joke with his engineer saying, I can get in the 128s, which he did, but it wasn't one of those do or die laps. Like, if you don't do this lap, you could finish second or third. He'd already got a pole position. No one was getting near him, but I don't want to take that away too much from him, because it was an absolute stunning lap. He led. He didn't do the best start. He led and then just did his job perfectly. He didn't put a foot wrong, but it's kind of where you expected Verstappen to be. And last but not least is the wonderful Zhou, who I'm pretty much going to put him next to Bottas. He did the job. But I mean, he got out qualified by Bottas. He's not amazing. Just did it. He, kind of like Ron Sealed, if you ever seen the advert, does exactly what it says on the tin, and that's exactly what both the Alfa Romeo drivers is. So no one got S tier today, but in top, I think driver of the day for me was Oscar Piastri, with that out qualifying Lando Norris. I think that was just as impressive as the stunning lap from Max Verstappen, who's our second A-class driver. Not Mercedes A-class though, of course, but an A driver. And also in the A's is Lando Norris. Next up, top of the B's, I'm going for Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, kind of together. Appreciate I can't do that, but there we go. There you go. So they keep swapping over there. But Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, and then we've got Liam Lawson next for the B's. Then Leclerc, Tsunoda, and Sainz. Sainz being the last of the B's, because he did get beaten by his teammate Leclerc, and he looked like he was going to get beaten by his teammate Leclerc for most of the weekend. High of the seas was Pierre Gasly with a good qualifying lap. Shenanigans at the end. Alonso moaning to his team, but a solid result for him. I don't think he could have got any better in that Aston Martin in the sea. Next up is Esteban Ocon, kind of doing what you expect. Then we've got Alex Albon, Hulkenberg. I forgot his name for a second there. Sorry, Kevin Magnussen, Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo, and Zhou. I mean, very average. And then we have the D tiers. Yeah, these are the worst of the worst, if I'm honest. Logan Sargent, oh dear. Lance Stroll, what happened in qualifying? And Sergio Perez with the fastest car, let's be honest. Didn't even qualify anywhere near Max Verstappen. And had a shocking race, didn't he? Not really his fault at the start, but he could have made places up. He ended up retiring. It was his own fault. Oh dear, Perez. Will there be a P45 for him? I want Perez to turn it around. I would love Perez in Qatar to win the Qatar Grand Prix and show the world, yes, I can do this. This is Perez, 3, 4, 5.0 at this point. But this is the Perez that's going to take the fight to Verstappen. I think the whole world wants it. And imagine going into Mexico and winning the Mexican Grand Prix, beating Verstappen in a fair fight and a close fight. That would be absolutely epic. That's what I would love for Sergio Perez. Please, Perez, make it happen, because I don't think anyone else has a chance of giving Max Verstappen any competition this year, really, going to the race. Maybe Brazil, I guess we'll see. But this has been the tier list for the Japanese Grand Prix, the 2023 Japanese Grand Prix. This has been the Hot Lap. I hope you enjoy it. I'm looking to do these after every Grand Prix. Thank you so much. As I mentioned, if you can, like and subscribe. I will really, really appreciate it. I will platonically love you forever. You'll be a champion in my heart. Speak to you next time.